Before you toss that old coin aside or leave it buried in a forgotten drawer, listen carefully, because what you're holding might not just be a rusty relic of the past. It could be a portal to an untold story of politics, economics, national pride, and rare value. Today we dive deep into the history of the 19821 Piso coin from the Philippines, a coin that traveled through a decade of dictatorship, economic collapse, revolution, and reformation. And if you're also one of the millions fascinated by the old quarters and dollar coins from the US, we will uncover the hidden ties between Filipino coinage and American monetary influence, because every coin is a mirror of history, and today you're about to see your pocket change in a way you never imagined. In the year 1982, the Republic of the Philippines was under the rule of President Ferdinand Marcos, a regime characterized by political tension, martial law, and economic instability. This period marked a significant chapter in Southeast Asian history, and the 1 Piso coin minted during this exact time is far more than a piece of everyday currency. It is a witness to turbulent history and a symbol of national identity clashing with global economic currents. 1982 1 Piso coin was struck by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, featuring on its obverse the powerful profile of Jose Rizal, the national hero whose legacy as a reformist thinker, author, and martyr had become a cornerstone of Filipino nationalism. Rizal's face on this coin is more than symbolic. It represents intellectual resistance and the everlasting thirst for self-governance and justice that has resonated in the Filipino heart since Spanish colonial times. Now, if we look at the reverse, we see the denomination inscription surrounded by a striking circular design, and at first glance, it may seem like a simple composition, but numismatists and historians agree that these features represent far more subtle signals. This design was part of a movement during the early 1980s to assert economic independence and cultural pride through visual national iconography, yet the country's economy was still deeply intertwined with American monetary policy. This is where we make our pivot to the old US quarters and dollar coins that influenced the coin economy of former American colonies like the Philippines. Because the Philippines was once a US territory, American coins circulated alongside local issues for decades. During the early 20th century, the silver peso was even designed to match the weight of the US silver dollar, making both coins interchangeable in trade and savings, and this created a long-standing pattern of dependency and imitation that would take generations to unwind. In 1982, the Philippine economy was on the brink of collapse. Foreign debt had ballooned, inflation was high, and the peso was losing value against the US dollar. The 1 Piso coin, which once held the purchasing power for basic necessities like rice or gasoline, was now worth far less, and the government resorted to debasing the currency and changing its metal composition from high-grade metals like nickel and copper to more affordable alloys like aluminum, brass, or even steel with plated finishes. A specific 1982 version was composed of copper nickel and weighed 9.5 grams with a diameter of 29 millimeters. Yet, the looming inflation and political crisis would soon phase this design out in favor of smaller, cheaper coins. But the 1982 1 Piso coin remains an important historical relic because it captures the last echoes of a more ambitious national coinage plan, a time before the economy forced a total redesign of Philippine currency. It was the final stretch before the 1986 People Power Revolution, which overthrew the Marcos regime and led to a complete overhaul of the political and financial systems. Interestingly, many collectors today do not fully understand the significance of this coin, and some throw it away as common, but here's where its hidden value lies. While the 1982 1 Piso may not be exceedingly rare in circulation condition, uncirculated, or mint condition, coins from this year are now in high demand, especially those with die errors, off-center strikes, or retained luster. More so if graded by professional services such as PC or NGC. In top conditions, these coins can sell between $5 to $30 depending on collector interest, which is far above face value, especially for a coin most people dismiss as scrap metal. Now, let's rewind to understand why people also search for old quarters and dollar coins during the same era. The 1982 US quarter, for example, was the first year that the US Mint stopped producing coins with mint marks from Philadelphia, making it a key point of study for American numismatists. Similarly, 1982 was a year when the US Mint produced no collector sets, no proof sets, and had inconsistencies in mintage and quality that created a treasure trove for era coin hunters, from doubled dies to off-metal strikes. This was the era of hidden value. This similarity between the US and Philippines in coin history during 1982 is not a coincidence. It is the legacy of colonial influence and intertwined economies, and for coin collectors this offers a unique opportunity to build a collection that tells a story not just of value but of resistance, economics, revolution, and national identities. So the next time you see an old 1 Piso from 1982 or a dull-looking quarter from the same year, remember that you're not just holding a coin, you're holding a snapshot of a country in crisis, a people in transition, and a global system in flux, and that alone gives the coin its weight in both metal and meaning. We will also break down how to grade these coins, how to spot fakes and errors, what auction houses and online platforms like eBay and Heritage are currently listing them for, and how prices are trending. as the collector market evolves, and we'll compare that with historical auction data to see whether investing in coins like the 1982 Piso or old US quarters and dollars is a smart move for the modern numismatist, because whether you're a beginner or an expert, every coin tells a story, and every story adds value, and with the right research, the right patience, and the right eye, what seems like pocket change can become a personal museum and sometimes even a fortune. Have you ever held a coin so seemingly ordinary yet packed with forgotten history, political transformation, cultural identity, and economic mystery? Have you ever stared at an old 1985 1 Piso Philippine coin or an aged American quarter and wondered what secrets lie buried beneath the patina of age? What tales of power, trade, revolution, and survival are etched in their metal? Then you've just stepped into the right story, because this is not just about money. This is about understanding how coins like the 1 Piso 1985 and the old quarter dollar became silent witnesses to historic eras that reshaped nations and forged the backbone of modern economies long before crypto and digital payments, before credit cards and online banking. There was metal currency, and the 1985 1 Piso and the old American quarters are two such pieces that carry the weight of generations. Let's begin with the 1 Piso coin. From the Philippines, minted in 1985, this was no ordinary coin, and 1985 was no ordinary year. During this period, the Philippines was nearing the end of Ferdinand Marcos' ruler dictatorship that spanned over 2 decades, with martial law, mass protests, and economic upheaval shaking the nation. Coins minted during this era were more than currency. They were national symbols. They bore the image of José Rizal, the country's national hero, who himself represented resistance, reform, and the pursuit of national dignity. And this image on a coin, circulating during a time of political unrest, spoke volumes. The 1 Piso 1985 wasn't just a means of exchange, it was a silent protest in the hands of the public, a circulating reminder of what the country stood for and what it was fighting to reclaim. The composition of this coin itself reveals much. It was minted in copper nickel, a material choice that reflected the global economic realities of the time. The Philippines had to manage costs amidst high inflation and a weakening peso, thus the move away from heavier, more expensive metals to lighter and cheaper alloys tells the story of a nation trying to balance survival with sovereignty. And beyond its metallic makeup is the size, weight, font, and layout, which tell numismatists where the coin was minted, which political party was in power, and even how much confidence the government had in its own economy at the time. But let's cross the ocean now and visit the old quarters of the United States. Coins that were once in every pocket, vending machine, cash register, and coat sleeve of a growing superpower. The US quarter dollar has always been a reflection of America's ambitions. Starting from the 1930s, Washington quarter, the image of George Washington, the founding father, was not merely decorative, it was ideological. It symbolized independence, democracy, and a return to strong leadership during the hardships of the Great Depression. Over time, the design shifted, with states being represented in later years, but the core message remained. The US quarter is a visual embodiment of national pride and a testament to the foundational values of liberty and justice. For old quarters, especially those minted before 1965, were made of 90% silver, which made them not only valuable for spending but also for saving and melting down during periods of economic uncertainty. Collectors today treasure these coins not just for their metal content but for the eras they represent. Imagine holding a 1941 quarter and realizing it might have been exchanged by a soldier on leave during World War II, or a 1984 quarter that passed through thousands of hands during Reagan's economic boom. These are not just coins, they are time machines, portable monuments to memory. Now let's bring the story full circle. How did the 1 Piso 1985 and old American quarters intersect economically and politically? Their paths are more intertwined than most realize. Both coins reflect the relationship of their countries with democracy, post-colonial identity, and economic survival. The US had colonized the Philippines at the turn of the 20th century, and even after independence, American influence remained strong in politics, trade, and yes, even in currency. The design of the 1 Piso coin, the central bank policies, the copper-nickel alloy, even the machinery used for minting had American roots and influences. Today, both coins are collected not just by hobbyists but by historians, economists, and archivists. Each coin bought or sold in the collector's market tells a new story depending on its condition, mint mark, era varieties, and the geopolitical context of its era. Coins like off-center strikes, doubled dies, or minting misalignments turn these tiny metal discs into treasures worth hundreds or even thousands. And beyond the monetary value lies the historical value, a value that no inflation can erode. So if you think coins are boring, think again. The 1985 1 Piso and the old American quarters are not junk drawer leftovers. They are windows into history. They are echoes of revolutions, collapses, recoveries, and reinventions. They are the stories of leaders, heroes, citizens, and rebels. And through this 2-hour journey, we'll unpack the full hidden legacy of these two iconic coins, the lives they touched, the regimes they endured, the empires they resisted, and the legacies they left behind. Stay tuned and let's decode the past one coin at a time, because here on Valuable Coins History, we don't just talk about coins, we revive the spirit of nations through metalware, we uncover the secrets of coins that most people overlook today. We're taking a deep dive into a story that bridges two nations, to currencies, and to legacies. This is the story of the 1985 Philippine 1 Piso coin and the American Old Quarters. Their histories are not just about design, metal, and denomination, but about national identity, political turmoil, economic struggle, and transformation through time. We begin in the Philippines in the year 1985, a year that would go down in the pages of Southeast Asian history as one filled with uncertainty, tension, and uprising. The nation was under the long shadow of Ferdinand Marcos, who had ruled since 1965. By 1985, the country was facing unrest from within, and pressure from outside. Citizens were rallying. The economy was on the brink of collapse, and inflation was eating into the daily lives of Filipinos. In this tense moment, a simple coin was minted, one that carried the face of national hero Jose Rizal in the hopes of a country in turmoil. The 1985 1 Piso coin is not just an object of currency, it is a witness to an approaching revolution. The obverse of the coin features the right-facing profile of Jose Rizal, the revolutionary writer and martyr who symbolizes resistance to tyranny. Above his head, the words Republica ng Pilipinas wrap around like a crown, a proud declaration of sovereignty in a time when the people were beginning to fight again for their freedoms. This is not a coincidence. This was a strategic placement, a visual message in every transaction across the country. Citizens were passing on not just currency but reminders of patriotism and change. The reverse, you see the denomination 1 Piso inscribed in bold with the year 1985 beneath it and the seal of the Central Bank of the Philippines. Surrounding this design choice was a budget decision and a political one. Metal prices were high, inflation was a crisis, and the country could not afford to mint coins with precious metals any longer, so the coin was made of copper-nickel alloy, a durable and cheap alternative that could endure wide circulation. The size was moderate, the weight manageable, and the overall impression was of a practical coin for a struggling economy. But this coin's story becomes more compelling when you realize it was minted just 1 year before the 1986 People Power Revolution, a massive non-violent uprising that ended the dictatorship of Marcos and restored democracy. The coins that survive this period are not just collectibles, they are survivors of history. Some passed through hands that held protest signs, others were exchanged on the black market or hidden away during curfews. They hold energy of a people who reclaimed their country without firing a single bullet. Now we move to the United States to explore the story of the old quarters. American quarter dollars, especially those minted before 1965, carried their own weight in silver history and national symbolism. The Washington quarter was introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth, but it quickly became a staple of daily American life. Beyond just commemoration, the coin was meant to restore a sense of pride and heritage during the Great Depression, a time when hope was in short supply and people needed reminders of resilience and freedom. Pre-1965 quarters were made of 90% silver, making them highly valuable today in the eyes of collectors and investors. The removal of silver in 1965 with the Coinage Act was another sign of changing economic times. Rising silver prices and a need to conserve precious metals for industrial and military use meant the quarter had to evolve. Like the 1985 1 Piso, it was reduced to a copper-nickel composition, symbolizing a nation adapting to financial constraints. But the designs remained powerful, with the iconic profile of George Washington on the obverse representing leadership, independence, and continuity, and the reverse featuring eagles or later state symbols, reinforcing federal unity and diversities. These quarters passed from hand to hand. They became part of American memory, used during times of war, peace, expansion, and innovation. Think of the quarters that helped pay for food during the World War II rationing era, or the ones used at diners during the Civil Rights Movement. Every scratch and edge has a story, every mint mark a signature from a moment in time. These coins were more than tools of trade. They were tiny engraved messages about what the country valued and how it saw itself. Have you ever held a coin in your hand and felt the weight of history pressed into its surface? Have you ever looked at a seemingly ordinary 1989 1 Piso coin from the Philippines and wondered why collectors around the world are quietly chasing it down like treasure hunters looking for a lost relic? Have you ever questioned how a small round metal disc that once bought a bottle of soda could today fetch far more than its face value and carry with it a legacy that connects economic upheaval, presidential leadership, and deep cultural symbolism? This is not just about a coin, this is about time frozen in alloy, because the 19891 Piso coin is more than currency. It is a chapter of Philippine history, minted in metal, backed by transition, forged in political change, and molded by the people's struggle for identity and pride. In this video we will travel back to the Philippines at the close of the 1980s, a decade marred by dictatorship, revolution, and the hopeful birth of democracy. And we will examine how this coin reflects those seismic shifts in the nation's soul, from the face of Jose Rizal, proudly engraved on the obverse, to the Republic seal on the reverse. This coin captures an era where the country tried to rebuild and redefine itself under the new leadership after the People Power Revolution and the fall of Ferdinand Marcos. And while many think of the one Piso coin as common and disposable, numismatists know that certain variations from 1989 carry mysterious minting inconsistencies, rare errors, and valuable die marks that have driven up their worth on the collector market internationally, making this coin far more valuable than most people realize, with some fetching over 20 times their face value in collector circles. So we are going to dig into mint records, interview expert coin dealers, analyze collector-grade examples, compare market values across the years, and break down every physical detail and historical nuance of this iconic coin. And by the end of this 2-hour deep dive, you will not only know everything there is to know about the 1989 1 Piso coin, you will also understand how small changes in minting reflect massive changes in society. So sit back, get comfortable, and join us on a journey that spans economics, politics, identity, and time as we uncover the forgotten power hidden inside an old quarter and the true dollar value behind the 1989 1 Piso coin, because sometimes the smallest things carry the heaviest stories. And this is one of them. Welcome to the history you can hold in your hand. This is the story of a coin you've probably walked past 100 times without a second thought. The 1989 1 Piso coin from the Philippines, a coin that once jingled in the pockets of millions, a coin that held the weight of a soda, a jeepney ride, or a street snack. But what if I told you that this small metallic disc carries the echoes of revolution, economic transformation, national identity, and hidden collector value? This isn't just about old currency. This is a full, deep journey through the historical currents that shaped the Philippines in one of its most transformative decades, and how those forces were minted into metal to become what we now recognize as the 1989 1 Piso coin. And we begin our journey in the early to mid-1980s. A period of growing unrest in the Philippines under the Marcos regime. The country was facing mounting debt, political instability, and international scrutiny as inflation skyrocketed, and the value of the Philippine peso fluctuated. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas was already thinking about how to modernize its currency system. There was a need for durable coins that could withstand circulation, and a growing demand for coinage that symbolized national heroes rather than political leaders. And that brings us to the core figure on the 60 coin, Dr. Jose Rizal. By placing Rizal on the coin, the government was reaffirming his status not just as a revolutionary thinker, but as the very embodiment of the Filipino spirit. His stern yet thoughtful face gazes outward, reminding every citizen that intellectual bravery and resistance to oppression form the backbone of Philippine identity. Now look closer at that obverse side. The legend Republica ng Pilipinas arcs across the top, framing Rizal's portrait, while the year 1989 is neatly inscribed at the bottom. This design was part of the Flora and Fauna series, also known as the Improved Flora and Fauna series, introduced in 1983 and used widely throughout the decade as part of a larger cultural movement to showcase national pride and native heritage. Turning to the reverse side of the coin, we find the iconic seal of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, featuring the stylized eagle and lion, both signifying strength and sovereignty. Now here's where things get especially interesting for collectors, because not all 1989 Piso coins were created equally. The year 1989 saw multiple mintings, some from the Royal Mint in the UK and others from local mints in the Philippines. This led to slight die variations in error coins such as double strikes, off-center imprints, clipped planchets, and the highly sought-after weak strike variants in which parts of hair or the lettering appear faint due to worn dies. And as any numismatist will tell you, error coins are gold mines, not because of what's wrong with them, but because of what they reveal about the minting process and how rare they are when compared to standard issues. Collectors began to notice that some 1989 Piso coins were selling for far more than face value on the global market, particularly in the United States, Canada, and Europe, where Filipino expatriate communities were growing and looking to connect with their heritage in tangible ways. In online auctions and coin expos, certain rare variants of the 1989 Piso have sold for upwards of $10 to $30 depending on grade and rarity. Even average circulated pieces in very fine to extremely fine condition can fetch a few dollars more than face if properly authenticated. But the real story behind this coin lies not only in its monetary value but in what it represents historically. Remember, this coin was minted just 3 years after the dramatic ousting of Ferdinand Marcos in 1986 through the People Power Revolution, an unprecedented non-violent uprising that shocked the world and inspired other democratic movements around the globe. The election of Corazon Aquino ushered in a new political era, and along with it a renewed commitment to transparency, cultural revival, and national healing. It is within this context that the coins of the late 1980s must be understood and appreciated. So when you look at the 1989 1 Piso coin, you are not just seeing a simple piece of money, you are seeing a statement of national purpose, a reflection of post-dictatorship resilience, and a physical piece of everyday revolution. This coin passed through the hands of bakers, teachers, farmers, students, vendors, and soldiers, each exchange a small part of rebuilding a wounded nation. It's an artifact of daily life from a period where hope was fragile but alive, and it was alive in metal, in pocket, and in Spirit. From a technical standpoint, the 1989 Piso was composed primarily of nickel-plated steel, giving it a shiny silvery appearance and excellent resistance to corrosion. It measured 25 mm in diameter and weighed about 6.1 grams, making it sturdy but not bulky. Its milled edge gave it a satisfying texture and made counterfeiting more difficult. Although counterfeiting was a serious concern during the late 80s, with criminal groups producing fake versions of lower denominations, particularly 25 and 50 centimo coins, the Piso, however, due to its higher material value, was not as frequently targeted, which adds another layer of integrity to the surviving specimens. Now let's dive into the design lineage of this coin and how it evolved. Prior to 1983, the 1 Piso coin featured different historical figures and even martial law motifs. But with the introduction of the Flora and Fauna series, the Banco Central shifted gears toward portraying Filipino pride in more inclusive national icons rather than political rulers, and this decision had far-reaching effects in shaping the consciousness of an entire generation of Filipinos who grew up learning about the heroes on their coins rather than the rulers in power. As we continue our journey through the coin's history, we must also explore how the 1989 1 Piso fits into the greater tapestry of world numismatics, because this was a time when many post-colonial nations were redefining their identities through coinage and currency, and the Philippines was no exception. Coin collecting became more than a hobby. It became a way to preserve memory and foster identity among communities that had been displaced by war, dictatorship, or migration. Today, the 19891 Piso coin is commonly found in antique markets, collector albums, and online coin trading forums, but its value continues to rise, especially as pristine examples grow rarer with each passing year. Grading agencies such as PCGs and NGC have now begun recognizing certain 1989 variants as semi-key dates in the modern Philippine coin series, especially those with distinct strike errors or pristine mint state condition. These coins are increasingly being encapsulated and traded as investment pieces as well as historical memorabilia, and as the Philippines continues to modernize its currency system, phasing out older coins in favor of newer polymer notes and modern bimetallic issues, these older coins are only going to become more desirable. What if I told you that an old coin sitting unnoticed in your drawer could be worth more than what it says on its face? What if I told you that the 1984 2 Piso from the Philippines and vintage US quarters aren't just pieces of metal but are time machines holding the secrets of a nation's economy, revolution, art, and hidden rarity? What if I told you that one of these coins sold for more than a week's wage and the other tells a story of political transformation, minting errors, and deep collector demand? Today, we're diving into the full, professional, detailed, untold, and uninterrupted story of the 1984 2 Piso coin and the historic valuation of old US quarters, revealing truths that even seasoned numismatists overlook. So get ready, because this isn't just coin collecting, this is coin decoding. In the year 1984, the Philippines was under the rule of Ferdinand Marcos, a presidency marked by martial law, political unrest, and economic instability. Yet, amid this turbulence, the Banco Central NG Pilipinas released a coin that would silently etch itself into the monetary and historical memory of the nation. The 2 Piso coin, made from copper-nickel-clad steel, weighed exactly 8.5 grams with a diameter of 29 millimeters and bore the image of Andres Bonifacio, the father of the Philippine Revolution, whose face was determined and resolute, etched on the obverse with the name Republica NG Pilipinas curving proudly above. Was more than just a face on currency. He was the embodiment of rebellion, courage, and national spirit. A fitting symbol for a coin minted during one of the most turbulent decades in modern Philippine history. The Marcos regime was unraveling beneath corruption allegations and civil unrest, and while the masses faced inflation and political crackdowns, the coinage system quietly evolved, reflecting the tension of the time. The reverse of the coin was stamped with the central bank seal and the date 1984 beneath it. But unlike other coins in circulation, this particular minting year would later become iconic, not just for what it represented politically, but for its increasing scarcity in pristine condition and unique production characteristics. Collectors began to notice that uncirculated or proof versions of the 19842 Piso were harder to find, especially those without edge damage or oxidation, and this scarcity made the 1984 edition increasingly valuable in numismatic circles, with auction prices ranging from $10 to over $50 USD, depending on grade, luster, and provenance. But the story doesn't end there. To truly understand the value and significance of the 1984 Piso coin, we must look at the parallel world of American coinage, specifically the old quarters of the United States, which had followed their own evolutionary journey from 1796 to the modern day. And in the early 1980s, U.S. quarters were also undergoing changes, though less political and more practical. The 1984 U.S. quarter 4 example featured the familiar image of George Washington on the obverse and the American eagle on the reverse, designed by John Flanagan. The coin was part of the Washington Quarter series, first introduced in 1932 and produced in large numbers at the Philadelphia and Denver Mints. 1984 US quarter, while common in circulated form, becomes increasingly valuable when it displays rare Minting errors such as off-center strikes, doubled dies, clipped planchettes, or missing clad layers, and in recent years, several 1984 quarters with high mint state grades or dramatic errors have sold for hundreds or even thousands of dollars. One such MS67 example sold for over $1,000 at auction due to its flawless surfaces and sharp detail, reflecting how condition and rarity define collector value. So what do the 19842 Piso and 1984 US quarter have in common beyond their year? They are both products of countries navigating political and economic pressures. They both represent numismatic moments. Frozen in metal, they both reveal the artistry and technology of minting practices in the 1980s, and they both have surged in collector value due to rarity, historical context, and preservation. But the rabbit hole goes deeper. Consider the evolution of Philippine coinage leading up to 1984. Prior to the 2 Piso coin, the denomination had appeared in earlier forms, including paper notes, but as inflation worsened and the economy demanded more durable currency, the shift toward metal coins became necessary. The design of the Bonifacio coin wasn't just aesthetic, it was a statement, a call to national pride. During a decade of growing dissent, this coin circulated heavily among working-class Filipinos who used it to buy bread, gasoline, bus fares, and basic essentials, and unknowingly passed along pieces of history with every transaction. Meanwhile, in America, the 1984 quarter was entering cash registers and vending machines across a booming Reagan-era economy, yet hidden among the billions minted were a few with imperfections, and it is these imperfections that collectors treasure today. These flaws tell a story of production pressure, high-speed minting, and the human and mechanical errors that created rare anomalies, each coin a silent witness to a moment in time. Now let's go back to the 2 Piso and examine its physical characteristics in detail. The metal composition made it susceptible to surface rust and environmental damage, particularly in tropical climates. This makes mint examples even more difficult to find, and coin grading agencies like PCGS and NGC rarely encounter perfect specimens from this year. This scarcity has contributed to rising auction prices, especially among overseas collectors seeking to complete Southeast Asian coin collections. Another point worth mentioning is the historic role of Andres Bonifacio on Philippine coins. He was featured again in later series, but the 1984 coin was among the last before a full currency redesign in the late 1980s and early 1990s that moved toward smaller, lighter coins. The larger Piso coins were eventually demonetized, phased out of daily use, and became collectibles instead of currency. In contrast, the US quarter remains one of the most stable coin denominations in the world, still retaining the same size and metal blend used since 1965, yet the interest in older quarters has exploded, particularly as silver versions from pre-1965 command high prices due to intrinsic metal value. But silver isn't the only factor. A rarity, demand, mint era, and historic context all contribute to value, and both the 1984 US quarter and 2 Piso coin carry that complex mix today. You might find a 1984 2 Piso selling on eBay for $5 to $30 in circulated condition, but certified coins go much higher, especially if they're part of a complete set or exhibit full original mint brilliance. Similarly, an old quarter from 1984 might seem ordinary, but a rare error could fetch you a small fortune in the right collector market. As we move deeper into the global coin market, we see how collectors are not just buying metal, they are investing in stories, legacies, fragments of history captured in a circular form, and that is what makes both the 1984 2 Piso and 1984 quarter iconic. The coins themselves might be small, but the stories behind them are massive, transcending borders, economies, and generations. So whether you are holding onto a weathered 2 Piso from the streets of Manila or an old quarter from a dusty American drawer, pause for a moment and realize that you're holding history, and that history could be far more valuable than you think. Have you ever wondered how a small copper nickel coin that once passed through the hands of millions of Filipinos in 1990 could evolve into one of the most hunted coins by collectors worldwide today? The 2 Piso coin of 1990 is not just a relic of economic history, it is a story etched in metal of a nation undergoing transformation, of leadership, of monetary reform, and of culture and patriotism. This is not just about its face value. This is about the value it holds for historians, collectors, and currency experts, and this video is your ultimate deep dive into everything you need to know about the 1992 Piso coin in a way you've never seen before. We begin in the late 1980s. The Philippines had emerged from the shadow of the Marcos dictatorship and was entering a new chapter of its national identity under President Corazon Aquino. The economy was rebuilding, inflation was stabilizing, and the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas was working on modernizing the country's currency system. It was in this context that the 2 Piso coin of 1990 was minted. This coin was not just another denomination, it was a bold statement reflecting economic pragmatism and national pride. The coin was part of the Flora and Fauna series and features the image of Apolinario Mabini, one of the brightest legal minds and one of the intellectual architects of the Philippine Revolution against Spanish rule. His portrait was chosen to remind every Filipino who held a coin of the sacrifices made for freedom and the enduring value of wisdom and leadership. The 2 Piso 1990 coin was made of copper nickel and had a weight of 8.5 grams with a diameter of 27 millimeters. It was struck with precision and clarity, bearing on the obverse side the image of Mabini along with the inscription Republica ng Pilipinas and the year 1990. On the reverse side was the denomination to Piso and the logo of the Central Bank of the Philippines. It was a coin designed not just for transactions but for national representation, and its circulation spread across all islands of the Philippines, from the bustling streets of Manila to the remote provinces. It was a coin that held purchasing power that could buy a loaf of bread, a bus ride, or a newspaper. But the real value of the 2 Piso 1990 coin would only begin to reveal itself decades later as it started to disappear from regular circulation. Many were melted down, lost, or damaged, while others were quietly collected by early numismatists who recognized that the coin had some unique characteristics that set it apart from other mint years. Some of these coins had minting errors, including off-center strikes, misaligned dies, and double strikes, and these error coins started appearing in coin markets, being sold for well above face value not just in the Philippines but in international numismatic circles. Collectors in the United States, Europe, and Asia began trading and bidding on high-grade specimens of the 2 Piso 1990, especially those graded by reputable agencies like NGC and PCGs, where MS-63 and higher examples fetched prices ranging from $50 to several $100 depending on the strike quality, luster, and rarity. These coins became desirable because they marked a period of transition and stability in the Philippines, something many collectors value as it adds historical weight to the coin itself. We also have to examine the coin's context in relation to the evolution of the Philippine peso and why this denomination would be eventually phased out. The 2 Piso coin was produced from 1983 to 1994, but the 1990 version became particularly collectible because of its lower mintage compared to other years and because it was among the most widely circulated coins before inflationary adjustments in the early 1990s began to affect small denominations, eventually leading to redesigns and the creation of the BSP coin series that replaced it. But let us go even deeper. What was the purchasing power of this coin in 1990? What did it mean to the ordinary Filipino citizen? And how did economic policies of the time affect the value of money in their pockets? The coin could buy a full jeepney ride, a bag of rice, or a bowl of noodles for a working-class family. It had real value and utility, and as the peso underwent fluctuations and the government restructured its financial institutions, this coin began to reflect the resilience and adaptability of the Filipino people. We traced the journey of this coin from mint to marketplace, from circulation to retirement, and finally to auction houses and collectors' vaults. We'll look at stories from those who hoarded them unknowingly, those who inherited them from their parents or grandparents, and numismatists who today travel across countries to find a flawless copy of this iconic 2 Piso coin of 1990. We'll also walk through the entire coin grading process, how to spot counterfeits, how to identify mint errors, and how to protect your coin's value over time, whether you have a circulated copy or a pristine uncirculated one. This video will give you the tools to understand its full potential, and of course we will explore where this coin stands in today's market. What are the latest auction records? What are collectors looking for? And what future trends are emerging? Is the value still rising? What makes the 1990 version so appealing compared to 1983 or 1994? And how can you determine if your coin is worth hundreds of dollars or just a piece of historical pocket change? By the end of this video, you will not just be an observer, you will be an expert in the 1992 Piso coin, its legacy, its market, and its future. We will look at comparisons between international coins of similar composition and era, such as the US quarter, the Canadian $2 coin, and various Asian denominations, to show how regional economic changes influenced coin design, mint output, and cultural symbolism. So, stay with us as we unfold the full history, the technical details, the historical moments, the collector value, and the future of one of the most underrated yet powerful coins from Southeast Asia, the 19902 Piso coin from the Philippines, a coin that tells more than a story. It tells the journey of a nation and the enduring power of metal in a world of paper and plastics. Prescribe now to old quarters dollar value and let this coin unlock the treasure chest of history waiting in your pocket. Changed. Understand the value of the 1990 Piso coin. We have to go back to the Philippines in the late 1980s, a country in transition following the fall of Ferdinand Marcos. The nation was on the road to democratic reform under the presidency of Corazon Aquino. It was a time of great change politically and economically. Inflation was being tamed, but it was still unstable, and the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, the central bank, was working on stabilizing the currency system. As part of that effort, the Flora and Fauna series of coins was introduced to promote national pride and to reflect the cultural and natural heritage of the Philippines on everyday currency. The 2 Piso coin was introduced in this series not only as a denomination but as a symbol of leadership. The coin bears the image of Apolinario Mabini, known as the Sublime Paralytic, a brilliant thinker and hero of the Philippine Revolution who, despite his physical limitations, used his intellect and pen to help guide the nation's founding philosophy. This was more than a monetary decision. It was cultural, it was educational. Every person who held that coin was holding a reminder of Filipino resistance against oppression and the value of mental strength over physical limitations. The 1992 Piso coin was composed of copper nickel and had a mass of 8.5 grams with a diameter of 27 millimeters. It was thick, solid, and easy to identify. It featured a Polinario Mabini on the obverse with the inscription Republica ng Pilipinas, and the year 1990 placed along the rim. The reverse displayed the bold denomination to Piso with the logo of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, a stylized representation of the Philippine sun and 3 stars. The edges were reeded, providing better security against counterfeiting while also giving it a more refined feel in the hand. In terms of strike quality, the 1990 issue was considered fairly well struck, with many examples showing sharp detail on Mabini's facial features and clear inscriptions. However, several mint errors and variations exist, which we will discuss in detail later in the video. Have you ever held a coin in your hand and wondered if the world remembers where it came from, what it went through, and how many lives it passed through before it landed in your palm? Have you ever considered that a simple piece of metal could hold the secrets of nations, revolutions, cultures, political transformations, and forgotten empires today? We will dive into the rich, turbulent, and fascinating story of a coin that many overlook, the 1983 2-Piso coin from the Philippines. It may look ordinary at first glance, but behind its copper-nickel glow lies a story of a country in the midst of transformation, a government holding on to control, an economy teetering between inflation and hope, and a people whose spirit was imprinted into every coin that changed hands, from the bustling streets of Manila to rural markets in Mindanao. This coin was there, and what's more, its connection to old American quarters gives it a legacy far beyond its borders. We are about to unravel the complete journey, the mintage, the hidden errors, the political significance, the design origins, and the current collector's value of the 2-Piso 1983 coin, while also linking its monetary DNA to the legendary United States quarters and the broader currency transitions of the 20th century. Buckle up as we take you through an in-depth historical investigation, numismatic breakdown, and collector analysis that spans more than 2 centuries of coin evolution, from colonial currency systems to the modern collector markets of eBay and auction houses. This is not just about money, this is about time, identity, value, and the echoes of history carved in metal. Begin full documentary-length script for 2-hour video. The year is 1983, and the Philippines is a nation at a crossroads. Ferdinand Marcos remains in power, but tensions have begun to swell beneath the surface of government propaganda as economic instability surges. Inflation eats into the average citizen's wages, and political unrest grows louder in hushed conversations at kitchen tables and on busy sidewalks. It was in this exact year that a curious piece of currency emerged, a coin that would serve millions in daily transactions, but also one that would silently record the historical pulse of an era. The 2-Piso coin, bearing the portrait of revolutionary hero Andres Bonifacio, was minted by the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas as part of the new design series, replacing the old series that had begun to lose public trust. But what makes this coin so special? It is more than its face value, more than its composition, more than the image of a national icon. It is the context behind its birth, the reason for its issuance, the subtle changes in mint marks, font shifts, alloy adjustments, and die errors that create rare collector variants, and the way its economic trajectory mirrors that of the Philippines in the early 1980s. To understand the 2-Piso coin, we must first understand the Philippine economy during the martial law years, and how Marcos' currency reforms were not merely economic decisions, but political moves to tighten control and reinforce a narrative of national unity. Despite rising unrest, the coin features Andres Bonifacio, leader of the Katipunan, a secret society that led the revolution against Spanish colonial rule. Unlike coins that featured presidents or political figures, Bonifacio's presence was symbolic. It was meant to invoke strength, rebellion, pride, and above all, independence. But the irony was not lost on historians that his face appeared during a time when freedom was heavily restricted. The reverse of the coin displayed the seal of the Republic of the Philippines, a visual of nationalism attempting to reinforce the state's authority. But within this design lies a subtle artistic evolution that tracks the visual culture of the period. From 1983 to 1990, minor details in the way the leaves of the laurel wreath are curved, or the angle of the sun rays began to change, due to dye updates or even political influences affecting state symbolism. Now, let us link this to the American quarter dollar and understand how coinage philosophies influenced Philippine currency. The Philippines once used U.S. colonial currency following the Spanish-American War and during the Commonwealth era. Philippine coins were minted in the United States at mints like San Francisco and Philadelphia. Many featured dual inscriptions and bilingual symbolism, echoing their hybrid governance. But even after independence, the structural, economic model and design templates of American coinage left a legacy. When the 2-Piso coin was designed, it borrowed aspects from the coin philosophy, including coin size, weight, edge milling, and symbolic front and back structure, a tribute to its monetary heritage and the influence of American numismatics on Southeast Asia. Furthermore, the 1983 2-Piso coin was among the last large denomination coins before hyperinflation devalued the peso in the late 80s into the 90s. Its brief window of dominance gives it rarity, but not necessarily in mintage numbers but in clean specimens. High-grade uncirculated coins from 1983 are difficult to find due to weak metallic alloys and poor handling practices by banks. This leads us to collector value today. While average circulated versions are found cheaply, there are error coins, mistrikes, off-center prints, and double die versions that sell for hundreds, even thousands, depending on condition and documentation. From a material science standpoint, the coin's copper-nickel composition was chosen due to the rising cost of brass and bronze alloys, yet this composition made the coins more susceptible to corrosion in humid tropical climates, which again affects current numismatic value. Professional grading services like PCGs and NGC have only slabbed a handful of pristine examples, and in auction houses like Heritage or Stack's Bowers, authenticated error coins with die cracks or planchette flaws are increasingly sought after by Southeast Asian coin collectors and international dealers alike. Now let's go deeper into minting technology used in 1983. The Philippines employed a combination of locally maintained minting presses and foreign manufactured dies, including those made in West Germany and Japan. Due to prior international agreements, some 1983 2-Piso coins show micro-engraving anomalies that suggest a batch of dies used from leftover 1981 stocks, creating hybrid coins with visual inconsistencies in Bonifazio's hair texture or shoulder detail. These make for particularly rare and documented specimens which attract in international coin catalogs such as Krause's Standard Catalog of World Coins. We'll now compare this with the 1983 US quarter. The Washington quarter that year was a copper-nickel-clad coin still struck with Cold War precision, bearing the stoic image of George Washington on the obverse and the iconic eagle on the reverse. Now consider this: both coins were minted in 1983, both were used in democracies grappling with economic shifts, both featured revolutionary symbols of liberty, and both are now studied as part of 20th century monetary anthropology. The key difference lies in perceived value due to preservation, circulation, and collector networks. While U.S. quarters from 1983 are common in circulated condition, uncirculated mint state examples, especially from mint sets, are valuable because no official mint sets were released that year by the U.S. Mint. This raises an intriguing parallel to the Philippine 2-Piso 1983, which also lacks high-end pristine supplies. We move through this numismatic journey. We also reflect on how coins shape national identity, how their imagery becomes propaganda or protests, and how they serve not only commerce but also memory. The 2-Piso coin of 1983 is now mostly out of circulation, phased out in favor of modern bimetallic or polymer notes, but its presence remains on auction blocks, collector guides, and in the drawers of those who remember what life cost back then and what hope was hidden in every metallic glint. To close this story, we are reminded that coins are not just forged, they are born into moments, into chaos, into control, and into belief. And the 2-Piso 1983 coin is a silent witness to a nation trying to hold itself together, to a history wrestling between pride and propaganda, and to a legacy still spinning in the hands of those who collect not just for profit but for truth.
This isn't just a coin, it's a time capsule. From 1996, a silent witness to political change, economic challenge, and national identity, hidden in your pocket and possibly forgotten in drawers across the Philippines and beyond. The 1-Piso coin from 1996 holds a story so rich that what you see as loose change could actually be a piece of history, a relic of value, and a symbol of transformation. Today we dive deep into the mysterious journey of this small silver disc to reveal everything you never knew about its creation, legacy, symbolism, and rising collector demand. Welcome to Old Quarters Dollar Value, where every coin has a tale, and this one might just blow your mind. The year 1996, the Philippines was standing at the crossroads of history, a country in the midst of transition, adjusting to the post-Marcos era, with a government now led by President Fidel V. Ramos, aiming to build a strong republic, modernize infrastructure, and restore trust in its institutions. While many headlines focused on political strategies, economic reforms, and diplomatic relations, another form of silent transformation was taking place through the country's circulating currency, and among the most iconic coins to be minted that year was the 1-Piso coin, a round metallic piece with a minimalist design that concealed within it layers of national pride, economic decision-making, and cultural symbolism. The 1-Piso 1996 coin was part of the BSP series launched in 1995 following the demonetization Of the Flora and Fauna series that had been in use since 1983, the BSP series was created to reflect a modern, stable, and forward-looking Philippines, and to also bring uniformity across denominations, and one of the most significant features was the portrait on the obverse side, featuring Jose Rizal, the national hero, whose story of martyrdom inspired a revolution against Spanish colonial rule. The decision to feature Rizal on the one Piso was more than aesthetic. It was political, cultural, and philosophical, for in Rizal's image, the government sought to reinforce national identity. During a decade that was increasingly being shaped by globalization, the front of the coin reads, Republica ng Pilipinas, in bold, strong font, with the mint year, 1996 below, Rizal's profile and his name engraved alongside, as if to remind every Filipino each time they handled the coin that the legacy of patriotism cannot be forgotten. The reverse of the coin bears the official seal of the Banco Central ng Pilipinas, newly established in 1993. Replacing the Central Bank of the Philippines, which had been tainted with financial crises and inefficiencies, the change symbolized a rebirth, a new financial institution focused on price stability, fiscal discipline, and modern banking standards. The coin itself is made of nickel-plated steel and has a diameter of 24 millimeters. With a reeded edge giving it a secure and distinctive feel in hand at the time of circulation, it had purchasing power enough to buy a small snack, a jeepney ride, or even a sachet of shampoo. But the real value of the one Piso 1996 goes far beyond its face value. In the years since this coin has grown in significance among collectors, especially those interested in pre-millennium Southeast Asian currency. The value of a 1996 one Piso coin today depends heavily on its condition. Known in numismatics as its grade uncirculated specimens with no visible scratches, wear, or toning can be sold at a premium and are increasingly rare due to the coin's widespread use in commerce. However, circulated versions are still of interest, especially those with minting errors like off-center strikes, die cracks, or double images, which have become popular among error coin enthusiasts because of their scarcity. Some of these flawed coins have sold for 10 to 20 times their face value on online auction platforms and collectors' forums. What also makes the 19961 Piso a fascinating study is its geopolitical context. It was released just 3 years after the U.S. military officially left Subic Bay Naval Base, ending nearly a century of American military presence in the Philippines. While the departure was political, it left behind economic ripples that forced the Philippines to rebuild its economy and identity in this climate. The BSP coins acted as national branding tools, asserting local hero symbols and slogans that were purely Filipino with no colonial undertones. By examining the one Piso 1996, you also examine the trajectory of the Filipino economy, the shift in monetary policy under President Ramos, the attempts to curb inflation, modernize banking, and build stronger trade relations with Asian neighbors and global markets. Even the minting technology used during this time was upgraded, resulting in cleaner strikes and longer-lasting materials compared to previous generations of coins. Additionally, the 1996 one Piso saw limited international minting, unlike earlier series, which had been outsourced to countries like the United Kingdom, Canada, or Spain, meaning most of these coins were locally struck by the security plant complex of the Banco Central ng Pilipinas, adding another layer of national production pride. From a design perspective, the choice to use fewer elements and cleaner lines marked a transition toward simplicity and elegance in national coinage making. The coin instantly recognizable to users without the clutter of earlier complex motifs. As the years passed, the coin saw daily wear and tear, and eventually was phased out in favor of the NGC series, launched in 2017, which introduced new security features and fresh designs, making the 1996 Piso now a vintage item no longer accepted in daily transactions but still holding legal tender status. The rise of digital payments and banking apps also further marginalized coins like this in practical use, yet their collector value rose, because nostalgia often grows where scarcity meets sentiment. Today, the coin remains a favorite among educators, historians, and collectors, who see in its small, round shape a powerful reflection of Filipino resilience, identity, and economic growth. In conclusion, the one Piso coin from 1996 is not just currency. It is a metallic time capsule of national values, economic reforms, and cultural pride. And whether you're a seasoned numismatist, a history lover, or just someone who stumbled upon an old coin in a drawer, this piece represents a story that needs to be remembered, preserved, and retold. And that's why here, on Old Quarter's Dollar Value, we explore every detail because every coin holds a history. And this 1996 1 Piso might just be the story of the Philippines itself. Have you ever held a coin in your hand and wondered what stories it would tell if it could speak? Have you ever looked at an old, worn 1 Piso coin from 1999 and thought it was just spare change? What if I told you that the coin you're ignoring today might be worth far more than its face value, that it might be the key to unlocking a hidden piece of Philippine history tied to the nation's economic journey and cultural pride? Today on BBC Coins, we dive deep into the 1999 1 Piso coin. A coin. It is about a story forged in the heat of change, molded by economic policies, and finished with a patriotic touch in a year where the resilience and national identity. Today, we take a professional magnifying glass to the intricate and analyze the metallic composition that reflects the country's industrial challenges at the end of the 20th century, historical circumstances surrounded its circulation, and how the Asian financial crisis of the late 90s shaped the very essence of its production, influenced its value, and the reason it continued to hold ground even when larger denominations were gaining attention from rare minting errors and condition grades that make some of these coins worth hundreds of dollars today. To the collector secrets hiding in plain sight, this video will equip you with the knowledge that transforms a simple 1999 1 Piso into a treasure trove of insight. We will compare its features to earlier and later Piso versions to show you how this specific year fits into the broader numismatic puzzle and uncover what makes it so special. We'll also break down the global currency landscape and how the Philippines positioned its currency symbolically, numismatics, economics, culture, and nationalism into one continuous narrative and you might even find yourself checking your own pockets for one of these hidden gems. So whether you're a passionate collector, an investor, or just someone curious about the hidden history of everyday money, buckle up as we turn the humble 1 Piso 1999 into a historical epic that spans continents, crises, revolutions, and the rise of modern Filipino pride, only on BBC Coins, where old quarters, dollars, and pesos come to. Have you ever asked yourself what story this small, round piece of metal could possibly tell? What if I told you that a coin minted in 1999 could take you back to a time of economic recovery, political evolution, and a hidden world of numismatic secrets? Welcome to BBC Coins, where we don't just show you coins, we tell you the stories they were never meant to share in. This documentary, we take a deep professional look into the 1999 1 Piso coin, a piece of Philippine currency that is not only undervalued by many, but is rapidly becoming one of the most intriguing coins in Southeast Asian numismatic circles now. Sit back because for the next 2 hours, we are going to uncover every detail about this historic coin, from its design and metallic composition to its economic context, political symbolism, collector value, and most importantly, its hidden legacy that most people have completely missed. Let us start with the year itself, 1999, a pivotal time in the Philippines and Asia as a whole, just 2 years after the devastating Asian financial crisis. The country was still reeling from high inflation. Withdrawal. Despite this, the Philippines was moving forward under the administration of President Joseph Estrada. While globally, people were anticipating Y2K, the turn of the millennium, and the digital boom. Locally, there was a different focus: stabilize the economy, restore confidence, and revive national pride. And in that context, the 1999 1 Piso coin was born. The obverse, or front of the coin, features the profile of Dr. Jose Rizal, the Philippines. Above reads Republica ng Pilipinas, while below sits the mint year 1999 symbol. Traditional copper-nickel alloy. The answer is economics. After the 1997 crash, the Philippine government had to reduce costs across every sector, including coin production. Nickel-plated steel was cheaper, more accessible, and easier to mint, but there was a trade-off. These coins aged faster, lost their shine quickly, and were more prone to corrosion, especially in tropical climates, making high-grade specimens much rarer. The emblem represents the country's financial independence with its gear: wheel rice stalks and 3 stars symbolizing industry, agriculture, and the nation's 3 Where it gets fascinating, the 1999 mintage was not as large, meaning the coin is statistically less common, especially in uncirculated or mint state condition. This lower mintage has made it quietly valuable among collectors. And let's not forget error coins minting mistakes, such as double dies. Off-center strikes or clipped planchets have all been found in 1999 issues. These error coins can sell for $10, $20, even $100 depending on their condition and visibility. Of the error but more than value, this coin tells a story about what the Philippines was in 1999, a nation balancing recovery and resilience. A country that was preparing for a new century while still holding firm to the memory of its past leaders. The use of Jose Rizal was deliberate. It was a message that intellect, bravery, and cultural pride must continue to guide the nation forward. This is not just a coin, it is a symbol of unity and survival. Now, let's talk about comparisons when placed side by side with other Piso coins from 1998 or 2000. Differences begin to emerge. The 1998 coins had slightly softer details and were minted in much higher quantities, making them less attractive to collectors. The 2000 version saw design tweaks and metallic inconsistencies as materials changed. Again, in contrast, the 1999 coin represented a perfect midpoint in design integrity. Mint strength and limited production quantity, it has since become a favorite among advanced collectors looking for 1990s pieces with both historical and material value. Beyond that, the legacy of the 1999 1 Piso coin continues to grow in the digital age, with coin-selling platforms, eBay, Etsy, and collector forums showcasing pieces from this year at rising prices, especially for those preserved in near-mint state. Whether you're a casual observer, a new collector, or a full-blown numismatist, the message is clear: this coin deserves your attention. Have you ever held a 1 Piso 2002 Philippine coin in your hand and wondered if it's worth more than a single peso, or if it holds a deeper untold story within its metal surface? Have you ever looked at your change and thought there might be a hidden treasure lying among the coins forgotten by time? Welcome to a journey that begins with a small silver disc minted in 2002, yet connected to decades of history, politics, national identity, and hidden value. This is the professional, detailed, no stone unturned documentary-style deep dive into the 1 Piso 2002 coin, a journey through the layers of the Philippines' monetary heritage, the power of symbolism, and the surprising reasons collectors all over the world still search for this piece now. Let's begin with the design on the front of the coin, bearing the proud image of Jose Rizal, the national hero, who sparked a revolution not with a gun, but with the power of his words. This portrait was not just an artistic choice, it was a political and cultural declaration, as Rizal represents not only resistance and intellectual awakening, but also national pride, minted by the Banco Central ng Pilipinas. The 1 Piso 2002 coin was part of the improved Flora and Fauna series, the fourth major coin series in Philippine history. This was a time of transition, where the country sought to modernize its economy, align its currency with new security measures, and solidify its identity in the post-Marcos era. It was not just the design, it was the timing. The early 2000s saw a rapidly changing global economic landscape. Digitalization, inflation, and the rise of online auction platforms began to change how collectors viewed and valued coins. This was also a period when counterfeit coin circulation became a concern, and the Banco Central responded by increasing security features and minting consistency. The 1 Piso 2002 was produced using nickel-plated steel, a cheaper and more durable alloy compared to older versions which previously used copper, nickel, and even real silver decades earlier. This change alone marked a pivotal evolution in Filipino coinage. It reflected cost efficiency, but also shifted the tactile feel and weight, something that hardcore numismatists would instantly recognize now. You might wonder, what about the actual value of this coin today? Well, for the average citizen, it still buys a piece of candy or adds to a jeepney fare. But in the world of collectors, certain versions of the 2002 1 Piso can sell for far more depending on condition, minting errors, circulation status, and historical context. Rare error coins like double strike off-center minting or even clipped planchettes have been reported and are in high demand. For example, a single misprinted 1 Piso coin from this era has been documented selling for over 500 pesos in private collector groups and platforms. Like eBay, Facebook Marketplace, and collectors' conventions, the true value lies not just in metal content, but in rarity, story, and historical significance. Let's zoom out and understand the evolution of the Philippine peso and how we got to the 2002 version. The peso has been a symbol of both colonial legacy and national rebirth. Its name derived from the Spanish dollar. The peso traces its roots back to the Spanish occupation, when the islands were integrated into the global economy through the Manila galleon trade with Acapulco. Mexico, the original silver pesos, known as pieces of 8, were the foundation of trade across Asia, the Americas, and Europe. Eventually, local coinage began to emerge, especially after the Declaration of Independence in 1898 and the U.S. colonization that followed during the American regime. Peso adopted U.S.-style coins with Filipino iconography. This was an era of blended influences, and over time, the designs shifted, reflecting the republic's sovereignty and its aspirations. When the 2002 coin was released, it stood on the shoulders of a century of such transitions, and by this time, the coins were designed to be more practical, harder to counterfeit, and suited for daily circulation across the more than 7,000 islands of the archipelago. But the importance of Jose Rizal on the coin went beyond history books. His presence was a daily reminder of civic duty, of sacrifice and intellect, and placing him on the 1 peso rather than a higher denomination was a symbolic democratization. It made the hero of the revolution accessible to everyone and put national values in every pocket. In terms of circulation, the 1 peso 2002 coin was mass-produced, but not in the billions like older or newer issues. This makes uncirculated or mint-condition versions relatively rare today, especially as many were used, damaged, and lost in the 2 decades since release. For collectors, coin grading is critical and MS64 or higher. 1 peso 2002 can go for significant prices at auctions and coin bourses across Southeast Asia and the Middle East, where Filipino overseas workers often carry nostalgic currency pieces. The value of this coin also lies in its cultural relevance. Some Filipinos keep it as a lucky charm or family keepsake. Others use it for educational purposes, teaching kids about their national heroes' economy and coin care. But there's more. The 1 peso 2002 coin also represents the legacy of the Central Bank of the Philippines, which underwent major reform after the 1997 Asian financial crisis. New leadership in 1999 and 2000 meant monetary tightening, anti-inflation measures, and better control of coin and currency production. This coin is an artifact of that reform era, bearing the weight of economic policy, just as much as it does its physical grams. By now, we've covered the design, the metal, the historical background, the minting process, the errors and variations, and the cultural symbolism. But what about the global stage? Did you know that Philippine coins, including the 1 peso 2002, have been found in numerous museums in Europe and North America, often collected for their blend of Hispanic, American, and Southeast Asian roots? Did you also know that some international coin forums list the 1 peso 2002 as a unique example of early 21st century transition coinage from a developing economy to a modernized one? Collectors who specialize in post-colonial currencies often seek out this coin as part of a bigger narrative about national transformation, independence, and resilience. In conclusion, the 1 peso 2002 is far more than just pocket change. It's a relic of an era, a symbol of identity, a financial tool, and in the right context, a collector's prize. Whether you're a numismatist, a student of history, a casual viewer, or a Filipino looking to reconnect with the roots of your currency, this coin tells a story worth far more than its face value, and in every scratched edge, faded engraving, and dulled shine lies a story of a nation, a hero, and a coin that refuses to be forgotten. So the next time you find a 1 peso 2002 in your drawer or your piggy bank, hold on to it. You might just be holding a piece of modern history that continues to gain value, not just in price, but in meaning. Have you ever held a coin that silently carries the weight of an entire nation's economic story? One that passed through countless hands and carries a value that's far greater than what's stamped on its face? What if I told you that the 1 peso coin from 2004, a simple, everyday coin from the Philippines, is not only a reflection of the country's financial pulse during a pivotal time in its history, but could also have hidden value in the collector's market that few recognize today. This video will take you on a gripping journey through the rise of the Philippine economy in the early 2000s, the impact of global trade on its coin production, the detailed analysis of the coin's design materials, mintage, and circulation patterns, and why some versions of the 2004 Piso coin are quietly being sought after by serious collectors around the world. This is not just a coin. This is a time capsule from a developing Asia balancing tradition, modernity, and resilience. And as we peel back its layers, we discover a story of power, precision, and politics that spans continents, currencies, and collectors. If you've ever been curious about what makes a coin valuable and how something so ordinary can become extraordinary, then you are exactly where you need to be. This is BBC Coins, and this is the complete story of the Piso 2004. Let us begin with the historical and political background of the Philippines in the early 2000s. In 2004, the country was emerging from a period of political unrest, economic struggle, and rapid globalization. The presidency of Gloria Macapagal Arroyo shaped the national direction as the country was focused on recovery and fiscal stability. This was a time when inflation had slowly begun to stabilize, foreign direct investments were gaining traction, and the Philippine peso was under close watch by both the domestic and international financial markets. Now, let's shift our focus to the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, which plays a crucial role in the minting of coins, including the 1 Piso coin in 2004. The BSP was under reform strategies, introducing new measures to modernize the monetary system and streamline coin production. The 1 Piso coin minted in 2004 was part of the improved Flora and Fauna series, a line that not only featured the iconic face of Jose Rizal, but also signified a symbolic representation of national heritage and pride. The portrait of Jose Rizal, on the obverse side, was not just a design choice, it was a political and cultural statement during a time of growing nationalism and reflection. The coin was struck using nickel-plated steel, replacing earlier compositions like copper-nickel due to cost-saving strategies and international metal price fluctuations. The 1 Piso 2004 measured 24 millimeters in diameter, had a smooth edge, and weighed 35 grams. Its metallic composition not only made it resistant to corrosion, but also more economical for large-scale production. The mintage of this specific year was high, but what makes it interesting is that variations in striking quality mint marks and surface errors have led to a range of collectible versions. The coin was minted in both Manila and sometimes contracted abroad, depending on the needs of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas. Must understand that in 2004, cash was still king in the Philippines, and coins were heavily circulated. The 1 Piso coin was the backbone of microtransactions. From jeepney fares to sari-sari stores, it changed hands at the speed of life, making high-grade, uncirculated versions from this year incredibly rare today. Collectors who specialize in Philippine currency know that finding a 1 Piso 2004 in mint condition, especially one with a visible die clash or double strike, can be an exciting discovery for those interested in coin grading systems. Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGs, and Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, rarely receive submissions of this coin, but when they do, coins graded MS65 or above are highly prized due to the wear and tear common in this coin's life. As the video progresses, we dive deep into how the coin compares in value over time, adjusted for inflation, exchange rates, and melt value today. The face value of 1 Piso may seem negligible, but some 2004 versions are fetching between $1 to $5 in online auctions, while error coins or rare variants can go for $10 or more, depending on condition and buyer interest. We also break down how this coin is often overlooked by beginner collectors, and how you can tell whether your 1 Piso 2004 coin is a standard issue or a rare find. We then explore the symbolic relevance of Jose Rizal's image on the coin, discussing his role in Philippines' independence, his writings that sparked revolutions, and how his presence on the coin was a reminder of the nation's identity in a time when modernization often clashed with tradition. In the final third of the video, we explore real interviews and auction stories of collectors who discovered treasure in their old jars, how pawnshops and street Vendors unknowingly passed on valuable coins, and how many. Filipinos today are just beginning to realize the collectible value of their early 2000s coins. Finally, we conclude with market projections, expert opinions, and a guide on how you can start your own journey in collecting old coins, like the one Piso 2004, from cleaning methods and storage to marketplaces and authentication tips. Whether you're a historian, a numismatist, or simply curious about that coin lying forgotten in your drawer, this deep dive will equip you with the knowledge, tools, and passion to see coins in an entirely new way.
Have you ever held a coin in your hand and felt the weight of history pressed into its surface? Have you ever looked at a seemingly ordinary 1989 1 Piso coin from the Philippines and wondered why collectors around the world are quietly chasing it down like treasure hunters looking for a lost relic? Have you ever questioned how a small round metal disc that once bought a bottle of soda could today fetch far more than its face value and carry with it a legacy that connects economic upheaval, presidential leadership, and deep cultural symbolism? This is not just about a coin, this is about time frozen in alloy, because the 19891 Piso coin is more than currency. It is a chapter of Philippine history minted in metal, backed by transition, forged in political change, and molded by the people's struggle for identity and pride. In this video, we will travel back to the Philippines at the close of the 1980s, a decade marred by dictatorship, revolution, and the hopeful birth of democracy. And we will examine how this coin reflects those seismic shifts in the nation's soul, from the face of Jose Rizal, proudly engraved on the obverse, to the Republic seal on the reverse. This coin captures an era where the country tried to rebuild and redefine itself under the new leadership after the People Power Revolution and the fall of Ferdinand Marcos. And while many think of the 1 Piso coin as common and disposable, numismatists know that certain variations from 1989 carry mysterious minting inconsistencies, rare errors, and valuable die marks that have driven up their worth on the collector market internationally, making this coin far more valuable than most people realize, with some fetching over 20 times their face value in collector circles. So we are going to dig into mint records, interview expert coin dealers, analyze collector-grade examples, compare market values across the years, and break down every physical detail and historical nuance of this iconic coin. And by the end of this 2-hour deep dive, you will not only know everything there is to know about the 1989 1 Piso coin, you will also understand how small changes in minting reflect massive changes in society. So sit back, get comfortable, and join us on a journey that spans economics, politics, identity, and time, as we uncover the forgotten power hidden inside an old quarter and the true dollar value behind the 1989 1 Piso coin, because sometimes the smallest things carry the heaviest stories. And this is one of them. Welcome to the history you can hold in your hand. This is the story of a coin you've probably walked past 100 times without a second thought. The 1989 1 Piso coin from the Philippines, a coin that once jingled in the pockets of millions, a coin that held the weight of a soda, a jeepney ride, or a street snack. But what if I told you that this small metallic disc carries the echoes of revolution, economic transformation, national identity, and hidden collector value? This isn't just about old currency. This is a full, deep journey through the historical currents that shaped the Philippines in one of its most transformative decades, and how those forces were minted into metal to become what we now recognize as the 1989 1 Piso coin. And we begin our journey in the early to mid-1980s, a period of growing unrest in the Philippines. Under the Marcos regime, the country was facing mounting debt, political instability, and international scrutiny as inflation skyrocketed, and the value of the Philippine peso fluctuated. The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas was already thinking about how to modernize its currency system. There was a need for durable coins that could withstand circulation, and a growing demand for coinage that symbolized national heroes rather than political leaders. And that brings us to the core figure on the 60 coin, Dr. Jose Rizal. By placing Rizal on the coin, the government was reaffirming his status not just as a revolutionary thinker, but as the very embodiment of the Filipino spirit. His stern yet thoughtful face gazes outward, reminding every citizen that intellectual bravery and resistance to oppression form the backbone of Philippine identity. Now look closer at that obverse side. The legend Republica ng Pilipinas arcs across the top, framing Rizal's portrait, while the year 1989 is neatly inscribed at the bottom. This design was part of the Flora and Fauna series, also known as the Improved Flora and Fauna series, introduced in 1983 and used widely throughout the decade as part of a larger cultural movement to showcase national pride and native heritage. Turning to the reverse side of the coin, we find the iconic seal of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, featuring the stylized eagle and lion, both signifying strength and sovereignty. Now here's where things get especially interesting for collectors, because not all 19891 Piso coins were created equally. The year 1989 saw multiple mintings, some from the Royal Mint in the UK and others from local mints in the Philippines. This led to slight die variations in error coins, such as double strikes, off-center imprints, clipped planchets, and the highly sought-after weak strike variants, in which parts of Rizal's hair or the lettering appear faint due to worn dyes, and as any numismatist will tell you, era coins are gold mines not because of what's wrong with them but because of what they reveal about the minting process and how rare they are when compared. Two standard issues collectors began to notice that some 19891 Piso coins were selling for far more than face value on the global market, particularly in the United States, Canada and Europe, where Filipino expatriate communities were growing and looking to connect with their heritage in tangible ways. In online auctions and coin expos, certain rare variants of the 1989 Piso have sold for upwards of $10 to $30 depending on grade and rarity. Even average circulated pieces in very fine to extremely fine condition can fetch a few dollars more than face if properly authenticated. But the real story behind this coin lies not only in its monetary value but in what it represents historically. Remember, this coin was minted just 3 years after the dramatic ousting of Ferdinand Marcos in 1986 through the People Power Revolution, an unprecedented, non-violent uprising that shocked the world and inspired other democratic movements around the globe. The election of Corazon Aquino ushered in a new political era, and along with it a renewed commitment to transparency, cultural revival and national healing. It is within this context that the coins of the late 1980s must be understood and appreciated. So when you look at the 1989 1 Piso coin, you are not just seeing a simple piece of money, you are seeing a statement of national purpose, a reflection of post-dictatorship resilience, and a physical piece of everyday revolution. This coin passed through the hands of bakers, teachers, farmers, students, vendors, and soldiers, each exchange a small part of rebuilding a wounded nation. It's an artifact of daily life from a period where hope was fragile but alive, and it was alive in metal, in pocket, and in spirit. From a technical standpoint, the 1989 Piso was composed primarily of nickel-plated steel, giving it a shiny silvery appearance and excellent resistance to corrosion. It measured 25 millimeters in diameter and weighed about 6.1 grams, making it sturdy but not bulky. Its milled edge gave it a satisfying texture and made counterfeiting more difficult. Although counterfeiting was a serious concern during the late 80s, with criminal groups producing fake versions of lower denominations, particularly 25 and 50 centimo coins, the Piso, however, due to its higher material value, was not as frequently targeted, which adds another layer of integrity to the surviving specimens. Now let's dive into the design lineage of this coin and how it evolved. Prior to 1983, the 1 Piso coin featured different historical figures and even martial law motifs. But with the introduction of the Flora and Fauna series, the Banco Central shifted gears toward portraying Filipino pride in more inclusive national icons rather than political rulers. And this decision had far-reaching effects in shaping the consciousness of an entire generation of Filipinos who grew up learning about the heroes on their coins rather than the rulers in power. As we continue our journey through the coin's history, we must also explore how the 1989 1 Piso fits into the greater tapestry of world numismatics, because this was a time when many post-colonial nations were redefining their identities through coinage and currency, and the Philippines was no exception. Coin collecting became more than a hobby. It became a way to preserve memory and foster identity among communities that had been displaced by war, dictatorship, or migration. Today, the 19891 Piso coin is commonly found in antique markets, collector albums, and online coin trading forums, but its value continues to rise, especially as pristine examples grow rarer with each passing year. Grading agencies such as PCGs and NGC have now begun recognizing certain 1989 variants as semi-key dates in the modern Philippine coin series, especially those with distinct strike errors or pristine mint state condition. These coins are increasingly being encapsulated and traded as investment pieces as well as historical memorabilia, and as the Philippines continues to modernize its currency system, phasing out older coins in favor of newer polymer notes and modern bimetallic issues, these older coins are only going to become more desirable.
Have you ever held a coin in your hand and wondered how much history and meaning could be captured in something so small? The Idaho quarter, released in 2007 as part of the United States Mint's legendary 50-state quarters program, is one of the most striking and symbolic pieces ever struck, and its story takes us deep into the geography, culture, heritage, and pride of the gem state Idaho. The State Quarter series itself launched in 1999 under the administration of the United States Mint, to honor each of the 50 states of the Union with a unique design that would forever commemorate the individuality and historical contributions of each state. And by the time the Idaho coin was released in 2007, millions of collectors were already captivated by the program. The Idaho quarter is powerful because it does not simply show a landmark or a plant or a building. It presents a soaring peregrine falcon, one of the most respected birds of prey in the world, set majestically over an outline of the state of Idaho, with the state's proud nickname, the Gem State, written below in bold letters, and above the falcon, the words Esto Perpetua, the state motto, meaning, let it be perpetual. This combination of imagery carries weight and meaning far deeper than the average casual observer might realize. To fully understand the Idaho Quarter, we have to go back to the history of Idaho itself, a land of mountains, rivers, forests, and boundless natural wealth. It is a state carved by glaciers and volcanoes, rich in wildlife and resources, a land where human settlement dates back thousands of years with Native American tribes, including the Nez Perce, the Shoshone Bannock, and the Coeur d'Alene shaping its early history. These tribes thrived through hunting, fishing, and trade long before European explorers ever set foot in the region. The arrival of fur trappers, missionaries, and eventually settlers in the 19th century brought rapid transformation, leading to Idaho's establishment as a territory in 1863, and later its admission to the Union in 1890 as the 43rd Stadino. When it came time to select a design for the state quarter in the mid-2000s, Idaho officials faced an important decision: what symbol could best represent the vast beauty, culture, and heritage of the state. Some states chose famous landmarks like Virginia with its ships, or New York with the Statue of Liberty. Others chose symbols like flowers or trees. But Idaho looked to the sky and chose the peregrine falcon, an extraordinary bird that had a deep connection to the state and its conservation legacy. The peregrine falcon is not only the fastest animal in the world, capable of diving at speeds over 200 miles per hour, but it also carries a story of resilience. In Idaho in the 1960s and 1970 seconds, the peregrine was nearly wiped out across the United States due to pesticides like DDT that devastated bird populations, but Idaho became a central site for its recovery. The World Center for Birds of Prey, located in Boise, Idaho, played a leading role in saving the peregrine falcon from extinction, breeding and releasing thousands of birds back into the wild. By the time the Idaho Quarter was released, the falcon was no longer endangered, a symbol of victory for wildlife conservation and a source of pride for Idahoans. The state motto, Esto Perpetua, adds another layer of meaning. The phrase comes from the 17th century historian Paulo Sarpi and was adopted by Idaho to mean may it last forever, or let it be perpetual, a motto that reflects both the enduring natural beauty of the land and the hope that Idaho's resources, culture, and values will be preserved for generations. The motto, paired with the image of the falcon, conveys not just strength, but also continuity and survival over time. The outline of the state behind the falcon is no mere shape, it anchors the coin to geography, reminding us that Idaho is one of the most rugged, mountainous, and least densely populated states in the nation, with more wilderness than almost anywhere else in the lower 48 states. The jagged Sawtooth Range, the Snake River carving through deep canyons, including Hell's Canyon, deeper than the Grand Canyon, and the iconic Shoshone Falls, taller than Niagara Falls, all contribute to the state's identity. The Gem State, a nickname chosen because of its vast mineral wealth. Idaho is home to nearly every known type of gemstone, including the rare star garnet, which is found in only a few places on Earth. When the Idaho Quarter was released in 2007, millions were struck at both the Philadelphia and Denver mints, with additional collector editions in silver and clad proof from the San Francisco Mint. The release event was celebrated across the state, with schools, coin collectors, and civic leaders praising the falcon design for capturing both natural heritage and conservation success stories. Collectors immediately noted how the Idaho coin stood out visually in the series because of the bold bird in flight commanding the entire design space. Unlike many other state quarters that balanced multiple small details, the Idaho Quarter makes a powerful singular statement for numismatists. The value of the 2007 Idaho Quarter is not only in its face value or rarity, but in its place within the broader history of the state quarters program. Some of the coins were minted in extremely high numbers, with over 500 million pieces struck in circulation. Quality but certain proof and silver versions, as well as coins with minting errors like double die strikes, off-center strikes, or planchet flaws, can hold special value to collectors today. High-grade examples graded by professional services in Mint state 68 or 69 can command solid premiums in the collector market, and Idaho's coin remains one of the most admired designs for its clean, bold artistry. But the history of the Idaho quarter also connects to the greater story of how coins serve as national storytellers. When Americans in 2007 pulled an Idaho quarter from their pocket change, they held a reminder of the importance of wildlife conservation, of the deep natural treasures of the American West, and of the enduring legacy of a state that calls itself the Gem State. This is not just about currency, it is about identity, heritage, and storytelling through Metal Lover. The course of 2 hours, one could explore not only the minting process that brought this coin into existence, but also the deep symbolism of its design, the cultural meaning of the peregrine falcon, the history of Idaho's people and land, and the broader legacy of the 50-state quarters program, which remains the most successful coin collecting initiative in American history. The Idaho quarter dollar of 2007 is not merely a 25-cent piece, it is a small but powerful monument to the spirit of a state that has always soared like the falcon that defines it.
Have you ever held a coin in your hand and wondered what stories it carries, what people it passed through, and what moments in history it has witnessed? The one Piso coin from 2010 may seem like a simple, everyday currency, but it's much more than that. It is a time capsule, a symbol of a nation's economic resilience, a piece of Philippine identity, and an artifact of transition in a fast-evolving world today. We take you deep into the heart of coinage history, into the legacy and true value behind the 2010 one Piso coin. As we peel back the layers of minting decisions, economic policy, inflation, cultural shifts, and global impact, you'll learn why this coin matters more than you think, how it reflects the broader economic goals of the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas, how it connects to the changing image of national heroes, how it marked a subtle but important shift in design, metal composition, circulation patterns, and global coin collecting demand, and what makes this specific year different from all others. Why does the 2010 one Piso stand out among others minted in the same decade? How did the alloy choices affect durability and cost efficiency? What happened to the national economy in 2010 that makes this coin a silent witness to financial and social realities of its time? We are not just talking about its face value. We are talking about how this coin serves as a mirror of the nation, its politics, its people, its pride. We go into the visual details, the font style, the spacing, the ridge edges, the depiction of Jose Rizal, and why his image on this specific minting tells us more than just a tribute. It tells a message from the government to the people. We explore how coin circulation was impacted by technology, mobile payments, and the push toward a cashlight economy, and why coins like the 2010 one Piso are becoming more rare in everyday transactions and gaining more attention from collectors, especially those looking for pristine, uncirculated samples and era varieties. In this long-form journey, we will also trace how this coin traveled from minting presses to your pocket. We'll take you through stories of families who saved them, numismatists who hunt for them, and dealers who have quietly watched their market value rise with global demand for Philippine currency climbing. We'll look at the coin's impact abroad, especially in the Filipino diaspora, where coins like these serve as both currency and memory, a link back to home and heritage. So grab your magnifying glass, sit back, and get ready to explore 2 full hours of numismatic history, heritage, and hidden value, because what you're about to see will change the way you look at your change. This is not just a coin, this is the 2010 one Piso, and today we unlock its legacy and true worth. Welcome to Old Quarters Dollar Value, where history is not forgotten, it's minted and remembered forever. Old Quarters Dollar Value, and today we are about to uncover the full, untold story of the 2010 one Piso coin, a small circular object that most people have tossed into their wallets without a second glance. But behind that everyday simplicity lies a massive history, a journey of national identity, economic stability, metal science, political symbolism, and collector obsession that takes us through the veins of Philippine society and into the global world of currency and coin history too. Understand the 2010 one Piso coin, we have to travel back to the history of the Piso itself and its central place in the Filipino economy. The Piso, which replaced the peso from Spanish and American coinage, has gone through many transformations in its size, material design, and symbolism since the Philippines gained full independence, and each era of coinage speaks to the political environment of its time and the government's strategy on inflation, cost control, and public trust. The 2010 version of the 1 Piso belongs to the BSP series issued by the Banco Central NG, and this specific year marks the last years of President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo's administration and the beginning of economic transition under President Benigno Aquino III. And this means the coin doesn't just sit there with a face value of 1 Piso, it carries the quiet weight of the country's economic policies, regional tensions, technological advancements, and cultural evolution that defined the time now. Take a good look at the obverse side, and you will see Jose Rizal, the national hero, immortalized once again in a clean professional portrait with the words Republica and G Pilipinas wrapping around his head, and below him the year 2010 printed in bold, visible typeface. This isn't just a design choice, this is a political message. Jose Rizal symbolizes intelligence, resistance, and progress, and his consistent appearance on coins is a form of cultural reinforcement, reminding every Filipino holding the coin of their shared identity, history, and values. And yet in 2010, his portrait faced a period of discussion as the government began moving toward a new coinage series and visual redesign. But this coin was still proudly bearing the classic look, with no changes yet in alloy or orientation. A coin that stood at the edge of transition, a snapshot before the new generation of coins took over. On the reverse side, you see the BSP logo, the seal of the Banco Central NG Pilipinas, printed sharply with the 3 stars and the sun that signify unity, freedom, and democracy. The logo itself changed in later years, but in 2010, it remained in its original format, reflecting the institution's stability and economic mission. The edge of the coin is reeded with regular ridges, a security measure against counterfeiting and a design element that collectors pay close attention to when hunting for minting errors. But now let's talk about the metal. The coin is made of nickel-plated steel. This choice was not random. This alloy provides resistance to corrosion, maintains a bright surface finish, and allows the coin to survive years of circulation in a tropical climate, like the Philippines, while also reducing costs for the mint. Due to steel being significantly cheaper than previous materials like copper or brass, this change in metal composition reflects a global trend where many countries began switching to more cost-effective alloys after the 2008 global recession, and in 2010, the Philippines was no different, looking to streamline production without compromising quality. The year 2010 also saw increased digital influence on the economy, with mobile load credits, online shopping, and remittance apps beginning to reduce the physical use of coins in day-to-day life. Yet the Piso remained the dominant unit for small purchases for vendors, jeepney fares, and sari-sari stores, making the 1 Piso coin the most circulated and most touched denomination in the country. It connected urban and rural life, poor and middle-class commerce, and family savings from Luzon to Mindanao, and for this reason, it also became one of the most studied coins by economists and collectors alike. Now dive deeper into minting numbers. While official data suggests millions of 2010 1 Piso coins were minted, the actual survival rate of clean, well-preserved examples is much lower due to daily use, weather exposure, and oxidation. Many coins ended up scratched, stained, or bent, making high-quality samples much rarer than their mintage numbers might suggest. And for collectors, condition is everything. Uncirculated examples, especially those sealed in plastic or discovered in central bank storage, can command premium prices, depending on market demand and international interest. And if a coin displays a minting error like a double die, misaligned strike, or blank planchette, the value can skyrocket up to 20 or 30 times its face value, especially in auctions or online trading communities. We also need to talk about symbolism. The 1 Piso coin in 2010 was more than a currency, it was a memory. It was passed from mother to child, saved in piggy banks, donated in churches, flipped for luck, or thrown into fountains. It was kept in the wallets of overseas Filipino workers returning home from abroad, and in many cases, it was mailed in balikbayan boxes as a symbol of home and national pride. Coins are not just tools for transaction, they are cultural artifacts, And the 2010 Piso is an excellent example of how economics and emotions merge in a round piece of metal. How is this coin viewed internationally among collectors from the US, Europe, and Southeast Asia? The 2010 Piso is appreciated for its design clarity, compact composition, and historical position as the final years before the new generation currency series began. It is not yet ultra-rare, but it is increasingly being hoarded by early collectors, who anticipate long-term growth in value and scarcity due to retirement of older coins by the BSP, especially since the new generation currency series, introduced in 2017, slowly phased out older coins from circulation and turned them into legacy items. So, should you keep your 2010 Piso coin? The answer is yes. If it's in good condition, it has long-term collectible potential. If it has an error, it can be worth much more than face value. And if you simply want to hold on to a piece of history, this coin delivers on every level. Historical, economic, artistic, and symbolic, it represents a decade of transformation for the Philippines, and every scratch and dent tells a story as we continue this journey. We will look at other coins in the same BSP series and how the 2010 version fits into a bigger numismatic puzzle. We will trace how coin production evolved. We will compare peso coins to other Southeast Asian currencies. We will analyze how global metal prices affected minting policies, and we will show you how to detect fake coins, how to value your collection, and how to connect with others in the growing world of Filipino. Because here at Old Quarters Dollar Value, we believe that every coin has a heartbeat, and that in the case of the 2010 Piso, it beats with the pulse of a nation on the move. Did you know a seemingly ordinary 1 Piso coin from 2012 could hold more value than it shows? While most people walk past it or toss it in change jars, thinking it's just another coin in the pile, there's a hidden story locked within its metal. Surface a story that dates back centuries, one that ties together the legacy of Philippine currency, colonial transition, economic turbulence, minting evolution, and rare coin collector demand, all merged into one metallic artifact. The 2012 1 Piso coin looks like every other coin, but it's not quite the same, because in this 2-hour journey we are about to crack open a forgotten chapter of numismatic history. We are going deep into the historical background of the Philippine peso, the transformation of its value through the decades, the fascinating design decisions that shaped the 2012 version, including the profile of national hero Jose Rizal and the inscription Republica ng Pilipinas, and what that tells us about the cultural identity and economic mindset of the nation. In the second decade of the 21st century, we'll investigate how the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas redesigned the coin, what metals were used, why certain minting techniques were chosen, and why this seemingly modern coin is now appearing in collector catalogs across Asia and the Americas. We'll explore whether errors in minting contributed to its rising collectible status, if there were off-metal strikes, double dies, or limited batches issued for specific regions which now make those variants incredibly rare. We will walk you through comparative analysis of this coin versus previous and later Piso coins, the differences in diameter, metal, weight, edge reading, and chemical content, and how those differences impact market interest and long-term value. This isn't just a numismatic lecture. This is a forensic exploration into the soul of a coin that sits unnoticed in wallets, at how inflation affects intrinsic versus face value, how collector psychology drives coin auctions, and whether the forums were specific to 012. Piso specimens have fetched anywhere from 10 to 70 times their face value, depending on condition errors and rarity. Through interviews with collectors, coin dealers, and economists, we will uncover why this coin is no longer just legal tender, but a historical document sealed in nickel-plated steel. This is a piece of metal that connects modern Philippines to its Spanish and American colonial past, to its wartime economy, to its post-war recovery, and into the digital era of blockchain currency. And we ask one question that will echo throughout this documentary: is the 2012 1 Piso just another coin, or is it an undervalued gem? Study currency as a mirror of civilization. Join us in unraveling the story of the 2012 Piso, where history, economy, design, and rarity collide in a way you've never heard before. To understand the 2012 Piso, we must first explore the origin of the Philippine peso. The peso was originally introduced during the Spanish colonial era, evolving from the Spanish dollar, or pieces of 8, the term, into paper money, and then back into coins under various governments, the Philippine peso went through Spanish, American, Japanese, and independent republic influences, each changing not only the value, but also the perception and purpose of the currency after independence. In 1946, the Banco Central ng Pilipinas began reforming the currency system. Coins were redefined to reflect a new sovereign identity. The peso led to clearer denomination and standard sizes and designs over time, leading us to the modern era of new generation currency coins, which the 2012 1 Piso coin is part of. The 2012 coin features the profile of Dr. Jose Rizal, the national hero of the Philippines. He represents the fight for intellectual freedom, civic reform, and national pride. The words Republica ng Pilipinas wrap around the edge in capital letters. Above Rizal's head at the bottom is the denomination 1 Piso. The reverse of the coin shows the logo of the Banco Central ng Pilipinas, with radiating lines meant to resemble the sun, and gears representing progress and industrial strength. The coin is nickel-plated steel with a diameter of 24 millimeters and weight of approximately 35 grams. Its edge is reeded. It is magnetic due to the steel core, which has caused some problems in vending machines and parking meters across the country. In 2012, a large number of Piso coins were minted primarily for circulation, but unlike earlier years, 2012 marked a critical year of transition and modernization for the BSP. The coin was produced at the BSP Mint in Quezon City and distributed nationwide. However, regional distribution was uneven, which led to certain variants being more common in Luzon than in Visayas and Mindanao. Certain batches had slight design anomalies due to new minting press adjustments, including variations in the sharpness of Rizal's profile and misaligned edging. Some coins released in 2012 had striking errors that are now sought after by collectors. These include off-center strikes, doubling on the letters of Republica ng Pilipinas, and die cracks on the back of the coin near the BSP logo. Some examples also had incomplete reading or partial plating, which gave the coin a ghost-like silvery white shine in numismatics. Such anomalies can multiply the value of a coin by 10, 20, or even 50 times, depending on condition and visibilities of the last 10 years. Collectors have shown increasing interest in the 2012 Piso, particularly in high-grade uncirculated condition. Standard circulated pieces usually go for face value, but in mint state condition or with mint errors, these coins have sold for $1 to $5 a piece in Philippine online marketplaces. In international auctions, particularly in Malaysia, Singapore, and US-based collector forums, coins with certified mint errors have gone for as high as $20 to $70. Each collectors consider this coin a sleeper hit, meaning it was ignored for years before suddenly gaining value due to research and rarity awareness. The 2012 1 Piso coin may seem ordinary to the untrained eye, but in the world of coin collecting, it is becoming increasingly valuable due to its transitional nature, minting anomalies, economic context, and design strength. While millions were circulated, only a fraction remain in mint condition, and even fewer contain errors or oddities that increase value. What was once a tool for basic trade is now a reflection of history, culture, and rare opportunity. And as the world continues to rediscover forgotten coins like the 2012 Piso, worth far more than a single peso. Have you ever held a coin in your hand and wondered if it's worth more than just its face value? What if that ordinary-looking 1 Piso coin from 2015 tucked away in your drawer carries a story that reaches deep into a nation's history? A coin that isn't just money, but a symbol of heritage, political power, and modern transition. The 1 Piso 2015 coin may look like simple change, but its true value is hidden in plain sight. What if I told you that this coin connects to the legacy of Filipino national identity, economic battles, minting transitions, and global collector intrigue, and that what seems ordinary is actually a metallic time capsule filled with secrets that even most collectors miss? This isn't just about a coin, this is about uncovering the roots of a nation through the metal in your pocket. The 1 Piso coin from 2015 is more than just a circular piece of metal. It is a physical embodiment of the Philippines' journey through its economic policy design, evolution, and national identity. At the center of this 2015 release is the portrait of Jose Rizal, the national hero who symbolizes Filipino resistance education and the birth of national consciousness. His face has graced the 1 Piso denomination since the 1970s. But each version tells a different chapter in the Philippines. Story, the 2015 issue, belongs to the BSP coin series, which began circulation in 1995 and extended through the mid-2010s. The Bangko Sentral NG Pilipinas wanted to provide durable coins for everyday use while reinforcing patriotic and symbolic imagery to the Filipino public. The coin itself is made of nickel-plated steel with a mass of 6 grams, a diameter of 23 millimeters, and a smooth edge. Its obverse features a bust of Jose Rizal, with his name inscribed along the rim below him, are the minting year and the words Republica NG Pilipinas. On the reverse side is the official logo of the Bangko Sentral NG Pilipinas, featuring 3 stars and a stylized eagle. This combination of the past and the institutional present illustrates a duality, the celebration of heritage and the enforcement of modern fiscal structure. 2015 was also a unique year in Philippine coinage because it came during the final phases of the BSP coin series, which would soon be replaced by the new generation currency coin series in 2018. This transition was fueled by increasing concerns over counterfeit risks, high production costs, and confusion in coin size among different denominations. But in 2015, the 1 Piso coin was still at full strength in circulation and widely used in jeepney fares, vending machines, and sari-sari store transactions, making it one of the most touched and traded coins in the country. What makes the 1 Piso 2015 version particularly collectible is its relatively high mintage, but also the emerging scarcity of near-uncirculated or mint-state examples. As the years pass and daily wear erodes, condition collectors worldwide search for high-quality samples. Graded by institutions like PCGs and NGC, the value of a 2015 Piso in pristine condition can reach 5 to 20 times its face value, depending on eye, appeal, luster, strike quality, and historical interest. Another factor that deepens its historical importance is its timing under the presidency of Benigno Aquino III and the economic policies that defined that era. The Philippines was experiencing GDP growth, infrastructure projects, and economic optimism, but also increasing inflation and debates over monetary policy. The presence of Jose Rizal on this coin reminds citizens of enduring reform struggles and the demand for education and justice for all, a quiet tribute carried every day by millions. The coin also serves as a tool of memory, education, and national pride beyond borders. It enters the global numismatic stage as part of Southeast Asian modern coin history. In international coin shows, collectors and dealers from Europe to North America examine the coin's symbolism and design, comparing it with other post-colonial nations' currencies. The steel composition of the coin shows a shift from older metals like copper and brass used in earlier Piso series and reflects the Philippines' strategic adjustment to metal cost fluctuations and minting efficiency. The Bangko Sentral NG Pilipinas continued to modernize its equipment during this period, embracing electroplating technologies and automated quality control. The 1 Piso 2015 coin is a product of this modernization, yet it remains deeply rooted in legacy culturally. The coin represents more than currency. It plays a role in games, superstitions, daily blessings, and traditional offerings. Its image of Rizal is recognizable even to schoolchildren, making it a vehicle for national learning even before they understand its full worth. For millions of overseas Filipino workers, the 1 Piso coin is a nostalgic token, a small piece of homeland carried across oceans and continents, and in many OFW homes, the coin is placed beside family portraits, altars, and windows as a symbol of hope and remembrance. Analyzing the coin's mint mark absence, the metal consistency and die variety is a discipline within numismatics that reveals more hidden layers. In 2015, a few weak strike variants and rotational die alignments were reported by collectors, though not officially confirmed by BSP, which makes certain errors from that year highly sought after, while the official mintage numbers have not been publicly detailed. To the granular level common to us, mint reports estimates suggest tens of millions were produced, though most remain in well-worn condition. As we push forward to the modern age, coins like this become both less circulated and more desired. The introduction of cashless payments and digital wallets in the Philippines has accelerated rapidly in the years since 2015, but physical coins, like the Piso, remain essential in rural areas where connectivity is limited and cultural transactions still revolve around tangible money. In conclusion, the 1 Piso coin of 2015 stands as a pivot between eras. It is the last breath of a series before a new monetary phase took over. It is a tribute to a national hero cast in cold steel. It is a symbol of evolving identity minted by a rising economy navigating inflation, tradition, and modernization. Its real value is not just what it can buy today, but what it tells us about the Philippines, its people, its priorities, and its place in a global numismatic story. And that is why this small coin deserves 2 hours of your time, because once you uncover its layers, you'll never look at loose change the same way again.